And third, nobody out, and this is over the head. Actually, must have hit the bat of Kareem Garcia, and a foul ball, and Garcia immediately pops up and screams at Martinez.
Yeah, that was perilously close to his head. Martinez hitting Soriano and Derek Jeter. The last time the Yankees and Red Sox played in a 2-1 game, won by the Yankees back in August. Now Joe Torre.
Well, they warned both benches.
I guess it must have nicked the helmet. I thought it hit his bat too.
I thought it hit him in the back.
Really?
It was behind his head.
Well, Martinez now pointing. That's the wrong thing to do. That's inciting right there. Trying to get himself under control.
Now Ramirez.
That ball's not even close.
You talk about looking for a reason.
Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness. Don Zimmer and Pedro Martinez. Oh.
That's awful.
Don Zimmer, a 72-year-old man, went into Pedro Martinez's face, and Pedro Martinez threw him down.
Oh, hey, how you doing? Welcome to another riveting edition of The Ghost and the Goat. I am your co-host. I am your host, Buddy Thayer, welcoming you to join us, welcoming you to take me by the hand. I don't have a beer hand this week. I only have Diet Pepsi Cola. Trying a little something different this week, trying to go the full week without a beer. Just beer on the weekends. That's what they say I should do. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I got a podcast Thursday night where we talk all about beer. Tune into that. But tonight's show is very special as we welcome. We do a little bit of sports here in the beginning, and then we roll right into the whole paranormal thing. I bring in my co-host. We bring in our paranormal guest. Tonight will be nothing different. Before we do so, though, however, I do have some wonderful news. I played the. Yes, this is actually the show, Adam. Are we watching the show? Because I started the show with some Red Sox Yankees ancient history. The Red Sox Yankees 2004. Well, actually, that was in 2003. Pedro Martinez, Roger Clemens, that stuff. The fight, Don Zimmer trying to throw a punch. 70-year-old guy trying to attack like a 25-year-old stud. hands up on his face, like as did the Yankees. Although not that year, because Yankees went on to beat us in the stupid ALCS, and then we came back the following year. Ancient history, as Mark Ambrose would say. In baseball tonight, features my beloved Boston Red Sox are hosting the New York Yankees. However, we are not the same Red Sox team that you may have seen in the video precluding the show, because oh God, I think maybe we got 6 wins. I don't even know. The Red Sox are not playing up to par baseball. As it stands right now, we're losing to the Yankees in the top of the 6th. They took Sonny Gray out. He's on the IR. One of our studs that they picked up for pitching. Oh, this guy's going to be great. Yeah, he has sucked the whole month, and now he's injured. So God knows what's going to happen. In other baseball news, the Stros are ahead of the Guardians 3-2. The Brewers lead the Tigers 3-1. The Nationals are ahead of the Braves 4-2. The Cardinals are ahead 5-1 over the Marlins. The Reds are beating up on the Tampa Bay Rays 5-0. There's nothing really baseball's kind of lackluster right now, boys and girls, because it's only April. Baseball is a long month. Juan Soto's to return to the slumping Mets on Wednesday. That multi-billion-dollar deal that they took, who hasn't really panned out as of yet. The Phillies wheel is set for the first start since August. Braves closer Iglesias to the IL. Suarez assumes the role. Red Sox place, as I said, Sonny Gray on the IL with a hamstring strain. Oh, good Lord. Orioles catcher Rauschman back after an ankle issue. Twins activate third base Lewis after 9-game absence, so good for them. And the Dodgers Diaz to have elbow surgery and miss months. That's okay, because they got the Dodgers have like a whole roster stud farm growing down there in LA. They don't need any help whatsoever. And I don't know. That's all that's going on with baseball. In other news in sports, there are some good news for us Boston sports fans, because right now in the NBA, oh God, they were way ahead. What happened? So the Celtics were ahead. The Celtics were ahead like 26-10, and now they're down 53-57 against the 76ers. The 76ers were like, we want Boston. They got Boston the other night. Boston kicked the shit out of the 76ers. I'm hoping they could do that. Oh, they just scored. Now it's 57-54. I'm hoping they can make this whole thing, whatever happened here, I hope this all stops and Boston comes ahead and beats them. Because I picked the Celtics to win the whole shit and shebang, the whole shebang, if you will, the whole NBA playoffs. In other basketball news, Game 3 between the Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks are scheduled for Prime Video, April 23rd. So that's 2 days from now. They had a hell of a game the other night, ended right at the end of the game. A lot of almost fighting. Should be a good series. Hopefully they kick the shit out of each other and the Celtics. Oh God, now they're down 59-54. Anyway, hopefully the Celtics are able to pull that shit together so we can beat up on the Knicks or Atlanta, whichever. The Cavaliers have taken a 2-game lead over the Raptors. And the seed 8 Magic upset the seed 1 Pistons the other night. And we're gonna see if they can keep that up tomorrow at 7:00, as they host the Pistons down there in Orlando. On the other side of the basketball stadium, the Thunder and the Suns again at Game 2 tomorrow night. OKC leads the series 1-0. The Lakers lead the Rockets 1-0. The Nuggets don't have any D game. That's what was said, but their series is tied with the Timberwolves at 1. And the Spurs right now are losing to the Trailblazers 10-4. I picked the Spurs in a parlay, so I really hope that they win tonight. That's it with basketball. I'm 62-54. Come on, Boston. Jesus Christmas. Another lovely thing going on here in the city of Boston. Our Boston Bruins are in the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. They're in the first round of the East. They're playing Game 2 right now. It's 0-0. In the first, they lost a slobber knocker the other day against the Sabres 4-3. Hoping they can do something but I don't know. Josh Allen amps up Buffalo crowd, chugs a beer. Dude, I will out chug Josh Allen any day, anytime, any beer style. You're a pussy, Josh Allen. Anyway, that's what's going on in sports, boys and girls. Baseball, football, there's not much going on because it's the offseason, a lot of free agency nonsense. But here in New England, there's a little scandalousness, a little controversy as New England Patriots coach Mike Vrabel was caught doing naughty things with innocent things, according to him. But then he has this huge press conference where he says everybody's got to be accountable and everybody's got to behave themselves. I don't know. Starting with me, yeah. This girl from she was an ESPN, or I don't know. She was a local. She was not a local. She was a national sports report. Rossini. She ended up having to quit her job because she had a thing with Mikey Vrabel. Some pictures came out allegedly. So that's all that's going on. No shame can be brought more to the Patriots, unfortunately. No curses. No, they're going to start winning again, and it's going to be make me throw up in my mouth. Anyway, that's all that's really going on in sports. Celtics. God, I hope they pull, and I hope they have it turned around because, yeah, whatever. I digress. Joining me this evening, as always, my lovely co-host Jai. Jai, welcome to the show, dear. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Your screen is a little bit. It's very bright and nice.
Is it too bright?
No. It's good. I feel like my camera
okay.
is foggy or something. But yours
it
is
does look a little foggy.
Yeah, it's because I think it's the webcam that's connected to the computer because
all that smoking. I'm kidding.
Yeah, no. It's whatever. So today we switched gears a little bit, Jai. We've been doing. God, I've been doing ghost people for 2 months straight. We're gonna change gears a little bit tonight. We got a UFO guy on tonight. Our guest tonight, he's a UFO experiencer and enthusiast that has passionately been studying the phenomena ever since his first experience he had in 1985 as a 12-year-old in Hayward, California. MUFON case number 12240. Visions followed his experience. Visions of a wheel within a wheel, hovering and spinning above his childhood home. Visions of running from a crashing flood at Stonehenge, walking the sands of beached whales, and reoccurring dreams of being on board the saucer. Listen as he describes in great detail a part of the ship that he became familiar with. He describes a vortex in the clouds before him and his friend seeing the UFO directly above them that would put on a light show from out of this world. He has had numerous guest appearances on multiple paranormal radio and podcast shows. You can catch him in his Mediative Craft Shop Facebook page at Ophanium Energy with messages of hope and self-healing. He also spends time working with other experiencers in his private Facebook group, Paranormal UFO California. He created over 8 years ago to find commonalities and learn more of the phenomena. Join him as he attempts to piece together his experiences and biblically accurate visions. Find out why he believes we have never been alone and listens to angelic messages he received from high-ranking throne angels of the first sphere. And as of July 2022, MUFON case number 141769 received another message from a craft that flew overhead. Please welcome to the show, boys and girls, Michael James Walker. Mike, how you doing, dude?
Good. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
What's that?
So, so Michael, your first experience, you were 12 years old. You never had any experiences before that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, well, I tell everybody that was my first big experience, but after studying my own case for so many years, I realized that they had been taking me well before that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so as far back as I can remember, it's probably 1982 is when they actually first began to take me. But I had chalked it up to something else. I had chalked it up to, I was seeing some ghost or residual energy or something like that. As a matter of fact, we can start right there. We can start in '82.
Awesome.
I woke up in the middle of the night one day, one one night in my bed, and there was this 4-foot waitress that was right there on the floor. This was not a dream. I was wide awake. Something woke me up in the middle of the night, and I'm sitting here looking at a 4-foot waitress, and she's wearing 1950s waitress attire. And it wasn't just the waitress that was walking towards me, but it was actually a diner that took up like 1/3 of my bedroom, like the right side of my bedroom that I'm looking at from the sitting on my bed looking down. It took up about 1/3 of my bedroom, and she was coming at me with a plate of food, and she was in a diner. I can hear the multiple conversations of the customers. It was a busy diner. It was a bunch of mumbling, hum, 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 hum. I can hear the silverware hitting the plates. It was a busy diner, and this waitress was walking right towards me, and it didn't scare the bejesus out of me. It concerned me enough to call to my mom down the short hallway. I just remember, saying, "Mom, can I come sleep with you?"
Oh yeah.
And I heard this sweet voice come from the hallway. And, "Sure, honey, come on." And reflecting on that moment now as an adult, I don't even think that was my mom that was actually saying, "Sure, honey, come on."
Wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's pretty eerie because there was no waking up the next morning and going, "Hey, Mom, what about that waitress that I seen last night? Did I come into the bedroom with you? I mean, do you remember me talking about it?" And it's really hard to get a validation from my mom. She's passed now, but this was just something that we never talked about until I was an adult. So it was just really hard to get a true validation. But yeah, I woke up, I seen the waitress. I said, "Mom, can I come sleep with you?" She goes, "Sure, honey, come on." And then I realized, well, there's a choice that I need. There's a move that I need to make here. I need to get up off the bed and I need to walk through this waitress. And I blacked out. And that's one of the commonalities that I found, studying this phenomenon through other experiencers, is there's a lot of blacking out that goes on,
Yep.
and there, like I said, there was no waking up in the morning going, "Whoa, what the heck happened?" It was just nothing until I got older and I started coming out of the closet more and more about my experiences.
Right.
And started studying the phenomenon.
So let me just stop you there, Michael. So this vision of the diner and the waitress, do you think that they put that into your head? Do you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
I had chalked it up, like I said, to maybe this house, that we were in at the time used to be owned, by a waitress, and I was experiencing some residual energy or something like that. But for years and years and years, I really chalked it up, buddy, as I must have just seen a ghost that night, until I started studying the phenomenon and talking to other experiencers, and they're like, "Mike, why do you think that waitress appeared to you around 4 foot tall?" And it really lit me up from ankles to the back of my neck. It just lit me completely up and goosebumps. And I was just like, wow. I realized I've heard of screen memories before, but I never thought of that 50s waitress as a screen memory. So these beings, they can appear to you in any way, any form that they want to, especially when you're a child.
Yep.
And from what I gather, that's when they do, their most work is when you are a child, and it kind of tapers off, or at least we think it tapers off as we get older, or they're just getting better at, taking us. I mean, hell, they can just take you from the bed while you have a loved one right next to you, and, they have no idea what's going on, so.
Let me ask you this. When I was a child, we saw UFOs all the time, my family, across the yard from our house. So they were always popping up. But when they were a white light, I would be awake for it. But when it was a different color, or if it made sound, I always slept through it.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I just wonder what's your take on that? What do you think? Because
Well,
I've
right
always
away,
wondered. Right.
right away, I'm thinking that white light is, something that you don't necessarily need to be uh, asleep for. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Right.
That's just my first gut intuition on that whole white light. I mean that
Yeah.
we've heard of this white light. Near death
Hmm.
experiences, and ghosts and UFOs. I think they all carry a real thin line of the electromagnetic spectrum. I think
Hmm.
there's a real fine line between. I think it's all family. I really do. I think it all has
Right.
to do with each other, and
Yes.
just by you saying the white light, that's interesting. There was a lot of different lights that I experienced a couple years later, a few years later, in 1985. Um, this was in South Hayward, California. I was 12 years old, and I was living at 28063 East 11th Street in Hayward. And I remember graduating from elementary school, and I was looking forward to the summer. And I was also looking forward to, after the summer, I was going to start junior high school. Man, they got locker rooms, they got
Hmm.
cheerleaders.
Yeah.
I was really excited. And I just remember it had just turned dark. I feel like it was around July. I really wish I would have took down a lot more notes, but
Mm.
it was 1985. I was 12 years old.
Right.
I do remember walking out that screen door. I lived with the Lopez family. They kind of took us in. I was literally living across the street from them. We had our own little home for about 2 years before my mom actually had to sell that house, but it was ours for a couple of years. And I've always considered this neighborhood my childhood neighborhood. But luckily, the Lopez family took us in. And I remember walking out that screen door one early night, and I walked into the middle of the street and I bumped into my friend Chano. It was really random. I used to run all over this neighborhood. But reflecting on this moment now as an adult, I have the advantage now of
Mm.
studying my own case for so many years. That was also a very eerie moment because there was not much conversation between me and Chano. It was just me walking out the screen door. I bump into Chano literally in the middle of our little neighborhood street. There's an understanding between me and Chano that it's time for a walk around the block.
Mm.
And
Okay.
so it began. It didn't start with this UFO in the sky. I have heard of these things before, but I wasn't really into it. I loved Star Wars, and Star Trek was always on the TV growing up. So I knew what UFOs were, but I was not looking for any UFOs. It all started with me just admiring the sky. That's what I do. My name is Skywalker. I'm a sky watcher. I love watching the clouds. I'm always looking up. Some people are always like, "What are you looking at?" And it's like,
Mm.
can I enjoy the sky? Like
Yeah.
it
Right.
doesn't have to be something up there all the time. What you looking at? Like I'm the weird one. But yeah, I'm
Right.
I'm a sky watcher, and we began to walk around the block. And before we even made our little first hairpin turn around the block, I took notice to the really pretty clouds. They were low and they appeared to be moving fast. Um, there was nothing out of the ordinary. Even at 12 years old, I realized, man, those clouds are pretty low, and that's probably why they appear like they're cooking. These
Hmm.
clouds were cooking, man. They were moving pretty good, and they were really bright white as well. And even though it had just turned dark, I realized that these clouds were probably so bright, and it was because of the moon. There was probably a moon somewhere that was lighting them up. I don't know. I didn't see the moon. I just assumed the moon was probably big and lighting up these pretty clouds. Um, a section of these clouds began to squirrel. Began to squirrel.
The squirrel.
Yeah, they turned into a squirrel. That's what happened. No, but just like this little poster I have behind me, these clouds began to swirl. In the beginning, it was a real small, slow type of a vortex in the clouds, and
Hmm.
Mhm.
it began to get real big and fast. And this was not like a natural phenomenon. You know, this was not no funnel, no tornado. I mean, I'm in the Bay Area, in the East Bay in California. We don't have much, phenomenon,
Right.
weather phenomenon like that. And I would know what that looks like. This looked a lot more crisp, clean, and calculated. It was like someone took the screen and pinched. You know how you can edit and pinch and twirl? Yep. It looked like, someone just started twisting the beautiful clouds that I was admiring. And there was a couple of thoughts that ran through my head before, guess what? I blacked out. So it was, oh my gosh, it was like a double take. I was admiring the clouds. A small section of them began to swirl. I did a double take and I thought to myself, are those clouds beginning to swirl? And then as that slow, small swirl got big and fast, I just remember having a quick thought that ran through my head. And that was, oh my God, they are swirling and they are swirling fast. And I blacked out. So that was my last conscious moment. Like I could have died right there. I knew exactly where I was standing. If I would have died right there, I would have known my last thoughts. I would have known exactly where I was standing. My friend Chano was to my left. I don't know what he was looking at. I wasn't talking about the clouds when I was looking at them. You know what I mean? I was just admiring them on my own. And like I said, we haven't even reached that little first turn of the block yet. But after I blacked out, my next conscious moment, I am no longer standing there. I'm around that hairpin turn, and now I'm about a half a block further down the road. I'm no longer facing south. I'm facing north. And my body is standing like a soldier. My arms are to the side of my body, and my head is stuck straight up. And I am looking at the belly of a flying saucer. And this flying saucer was about 150 to maybe 250 feet above maybe the nearest telephone pole, is the best that I can gauge how far up, I was from how far of this ship was from me. It took up my whole sight, my whole line of sight. There was no, like, okay, I'm looking at the belly of the ship. There's the clouds, there's the stars. Like, it took up my complete view. And I knew what I was looking at right away. I was looking at the belly of this flying saucer. And I realized right away as well that I could not move. And reflecting on that moment as an adult from studying the phenomenon, I realized that I was paralyzed. I was experiencing the paralysis that a lot of other experiencers have experienced. But as a 12-year-old boy, I was just thinking, once again, I'm chalking it up to something else. I just thought that I didn't want to miss a second of what I was looking at. So I remember thinking in my head, that's probably why I can't move, because I don't want to miss a second of this. Because I was just so excited that I didn't want to, lay my eyes off it, and I didn't want to move my body. But yeah, reflecting on that moment, I was sucked up, like my arms were sucked to the side of my body. I must have looked like a soldier at attention. And I'm looking at the belly of this craft. And the first thing I noticed, guys, is there was this blue light that was sporadically flashing. And it looked sloppy to me. It was flashing on the belly of this craft. And every time that it flashed, it would illuminate the skin of this UFO to where I could see more detail. And there was a lot of like electrical tubing, wires. It looked like I was looking within the exoskeleton of this craft. It was weird. But I had a lot of thoughts that ran through my head. And to me, it really felt like they were listening in on my thoughts, because they would react after I would think certain things. So one of the first things that I thought was, it felt like the light that was sporadically flashing, to me, it felt like the ship was having an electrical problem or some kind of issue. And I also thought that the light looked sloppy because it was sporadic. And I don't know if it's the Libra in me and the whole, everything's got to be symmetrical and balanced. But to me, it was just like sloppy. It looked like there was something electrically wrong with the craft. And I remember thinking, man, if I'm witnessing a UFO, advanced technology, why does it seem like it has an electrical issue? And as soon as I thought that, it snapped out of whatever electrical issue I was thinking it had. And it began to what I thought was like, oh my God, it's showing off to me now. It's showing me that there's nothing electrically wrong with this craft. It began to put on a multicolored light show. And it started from the very edge, the very perimeter of the craft, multicolors, all the colors you can think of, possibly even more. I like to date myself a lot, but it reminded me of an old game that we had growing up called Simon Says.
Mm-hmm.
There's, it's a light colored game, and you got to kind of match.
I remember. Yeah, I remember.
And to me, it reminded me of like some super high level that I've never even heard of. Right? It was crazy because the light show began just like the vortex in the clouds. It began pretty slow, and it steadily got pretty fast. And so the light show would start from the perimeter of the ship, and it would move its way clockwise, counterclockwise to the core of the ship. And then it would move to the middle and then back out to the perimeter. And it just, and, I remember thinking, how am I going to remember all this? Like, I'm reflecting on some of the thoughts that I had. Like, what did you mean, 12-year-old Mike? How are you going to remember all this? I remember also thinking, no, of course, I remember thinking no one's going to believe this. Mm-hmm. And, the light show probably lasted for maybe 20, 30 seconds. And I just was sitting there looking up at it, enjoying it. I knew it wasn't going to be around for very long. And pretty soon the light show stopped. And the craft kind of glided ahead of me and Chano a little bit. I assumed Chano was still there. I couldn't move, but the last time I knew, he was there on my left. We were standing on a different street at the time, but I assumed that he was probably still there. This craft went from directly above us to a little bit ahead of us to where now I'm looking at the ship as a whole. I'm no longer, pitched under it, looking stuck at the belly. I can see the entire ship now. I can see that it's your typical saucer, just like they described. There was nothing fancy to it. There was no little glass bubble where, there was someone driving up at the team. It was just, it was symmetrical from the bottom and the top were both. It was a pancake. It was a saucer. It was like a dish. And once it glided ahead of us a little bit, I still couldn't move, but it did a little bit of a wobble before it took off near the speed of light, and it didn't make a sound. It took off like a cartoon. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, that couldn't be real. Forget the vortex in the clouds, forget the multicolored light show that I just seen. The speed of which this craft left probably blew me away to this day, blew me away more than anything that I've ever experienced in my life. To see this thing go from wobble to just slick gone, like it was shot out of a silent shotgun. It took off east towards the Hayward Hills. It took off towards you guys somewhere one day. And guess what? I was able to move. As soon as it was out of the picture, I was able to move. And I looked to my left, and the first words out of my mouth to Chano was that was a UFO, huh? And Chano goes, yeah. And he apparently was not impressed. I definitely got a validation that he's seen the craft.
Yep.
But it kind of blew me away on a whole nother level to see his reaction of, yeah, like it was pretty boring. It didn't impress him.
But
I got it right away. Like I was uncomfortable to talk to him about it for the rest. It was a quiet rest of the walk around the block.
Yeah.
And, once again, I've got the advantage of being 52 years old. I've been studying the phenomenon for a long time. This is another commonality that I found, guys, within us experiencers. It doesn't matter who you see it with. They may have experienced something completely different. These craft can manipulate space and time.
Yep.
If they manipulate space and time, everything else is child's play. They can dictate who sees what. And to this day, I don't know what Chano thinks of our experience that we've had. I just remember spending the rest of that summer and spending that first year at junior high school, La Vista Junior High, trying to convince everybody and their mother about the experience that me and Chano had with the UFO. But I was a bit of a class clown, and that didn't really work towards my advantage. Everyone thought that I was always working on my next big joke. And what I would do is I would track down Chano, poor Chano. He didn't really, you could tell he still didn't want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And but Chano was more of a serious guy. He was a football player. I know that his parents and his family, they were really a little bit more into religion and things like that.
Yep.
So we would track down Chano, and he would be like, "Man, Mike, you're still talking about this, And I'm like, "I am. I'm embarrassed, but can you at least give us a validation? Can you, So all I was able to get out of Chano was, yeah, we've seen one, we've seen a UFO, but that's all I could really squeeze out of Chano. Like
that doesn't sound too exciting, or it sounds very lackluster. Yeah,
not at all. He didn't want to talk about any of the, the multicolored light show that it put on. He didn't want to talk about the speed of which this craft took off, let alone the vortex in the clouds. That's something that I didn't even want to talk to people about that. That was the most confusing part of my experience, was the vortex that I seen in the clouds just prior to being stuck underneath the ship. Mm-hmm. Apparently, when I was stuck underneath the ship, they were already done with me. They were dropping me off. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
They took me when I witnessed the vortex in the clouds.
So this blackout was you going onto the ship. Do you have any memories from this blackout at all?
So yeah, I do have some naturally surfaced memories. I have not been regressed professionally.
Yeah.
I am pretty much ready for that. But until then, the mystery remains a beauty. I do have some naturally surfaced memories of being on board this craft. So I did get familiar with a small section of the craft. Mm-hmm. I can describe to you a couple of the rooms that I was in. I can describe to you the long, white, windy hallway that I experienced, which I felt like I was on the perimeter of the inside of the ship, like this long hallway that was turning to the right, with doors to my right. I could tell you that I had multiple dreams that seemed to continue from one night to the next. It was really weird, of being on board this craft in this long, white or bright, windy hallway with doors on my right. I remember waking up lucid in one of my dreams, and going, "Man, Mike, I really feel like you've been here. Like you've been waking up in this hallway for the last 2 or 3 nights." So what I did was I remember doing like kind of a test run. Like, all right, I think I'm familiar with where I'm at. So I started testing myself, and I said to myself, "Look, if I open up this second door from the right, I'm going to walk into this humongous amphitheater room with a stage and seating." And sure enough, that's what I did. I opened up this door, and all of a sudden, this room that looks much bigger than you would think would be able to fit into this room, this door that I'm opening up, because the doors were evenly spaced, just like I was in some kind of building, and they weren't far from each other. But if I were to open up this door and look in, I wouldn't be able to see the inside of the next door. The room was just so huge. Wow. And if I were to like peek in and shut the door and open up the next door, I would be in a whole nother room. So it was just the sizing of it all just wasn't a hit. It was a miss. It was really weird. But I was in this gigantic amphitheater. I felt like it was an amphitheater, like where you would go for an outdoor concert or something.
Right.
And I was standing on this stage, looking out to where the seating would be. But instead of seats that you and I would enjoy at a local ball game, it was more like melted obsidian. It was like molted black glass that was like shaped all weird, and everything else was bright and white except for the black, like obsidian looking melted obsidian that was sitting, where you would be sitting at, like where with the seats, the stadium seats. So that was just really weird. I felt like I was on some kind of tour, but you know what? To this day, I have no memory of seeing any beings at all.
Really?
I've seen multiple crafts, multiple saucers and ships in my life, but I've never had a memory retained yet of actually seeing a being. Like I've never seen the little short, grays with the almond eyes. Like I don't remember seeing any of these. I don't remember if they were humanoids. I don't remember anything. But I do remember like I was being guided and they were showing off parts of the ship to me, like I was on some kind of tour. There was one more room that I can quickly describe. There was a room within this room. It was a smaller room that had its own little entrance. And I walked into this little room, and once again, everything's bright or white. And except for, guess what? I mean, there's this huge hot tub that's black, and it really reminded me of like an old school hot tub, like the old fiberglass hot tubs that you would see that have all the little contours and shapes for you to sit down in. It was similar to that, but much bigger. There was no water in it, so to speak, like a normal hot tub. There was like little pockets of water here and there. I remember taking a mental note that the water looked stagnant. It looked uncirculated. It did not look refreshing at all. It just looked like these pockets of uncirculated, dusty looking water. And I remember also looking at the side of this black hot tub, and I remember looking at dust, and I was tripping off of the dust. I was like, once again, I was thinking in my head, like, if this is an advanced UFO that I'm inside, you would think they would have some kind of housekeeping. You would think they would have more of a sterile type of craft. But I was tripping off of these little inconsistencies or whatever. Like I was just tripping off the dust, and so yeah, that's a couple of little areas aboard the craft without me getting hypnotized and getting going under regression.
Right.
It's just stuff that kind of naturally surfaced, and that's the only memory that I have of being on board this craft.
No, you want these memories to surface, or do you want these to stay buried?
No, I think I'm ready for it. I've definitely, heard and know that there's probably things that were locked into my subconscious that for a good reason. Yeah. I've had nothing but good memories, and this has been I consider it a good experience for me. I don't have any fear-based, scary stories about being abducted.
Well, that's good.
I believe there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to saying, hey, I've been abducted by a UFO and I have missing time.
Yeah, automatically your brain goes to like probe and like fire in the sky and disappear for 5 days. And
I'm in this tractor beam, oh my God, I'm being sucked up into the craft, and they're laying me out on this cold metal table and they're probing me in the butt. Right.
That's what everybody always like goes to, I think, automatically. Not every experience, unfortunately, is like ET. Right. So, but people get that like I'm a ghost guy. I'm a paranormal. I'm a purely a ghost investigator. And I find that to be so true with the paranormal, with ghosts. Like, why is there so much fear wrapped around this? Why is there so much like almost negativity wrapped around it? Is it what we're putting into it, or is it actually what it is? You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
I believe it's a little both, and we need entertainment, man. You know,
Yeah.
it's drilled into what we need for something to be considered entertainment. You know, I've turned in quick little videos to, you know, UFO hunters or whatever on the Travel Channel, and they'll take a 2-minute video of what I said and just use 4 seconds of it, 4 seconds of it, and kind of make it look like I was scared out of my mind, you know.
Pull it out of context, and just make it something that's not.
What's entertaining.
Yeah, of course, unfortunately. So this is pretty fascinating. So, if anything, they just brought you up there to brag about, like, hey, look at that ship, look at that stuff, then dropped you back off the way you were. Those are your thoughts?
I'm sure there was a lot more to it than that. That's all I was able to get out of it. As a 12-year-old, I believe that this was not just a random, you know, hey, we're flying around Hayward and, oh, look, there's a couple of boys, you know, walking around the block. Let's pick them up and show off what we got. You know, I think it was something that was planned. I think it was something that I was in agreement to before I was even born. You know, there's a lot of the aspects that surround this UFO experience that sometimes we're uncomfortable to talk about because, you know, sometimes as an experiencer, you're opened up to a lot of things, and sometimes you're opened up to too much, and it can be unhealthy, as you could, you know, imagine. For some reason, another commonality within us experiencers is we like to dive down all these rabbit holes. Like we understand that there's something real to this phenomenon. So it opens up this whole new world to us because why? Because we experienced it. You know, just like when you experience these ghosts, that opens up a whole nother world. Why?
Oh, it sure does. Yeah, it sure does.
You experienced it, and it answers, you know, the biggest questions we have. Is there life after death? Are we all alone in this universe? Like, these questions are something that, you know, I really feel like I might have the beginning to some of the answers to, because I've experienced it, because you've experienced, you know, this phenomenon.
So you feel like there are many species of aliens? Yeah.
In my personal opinion, I believe that there's probably, you know, just as many, you know, species out there, you know, just like we're here on Earth and we've got different races. And I think that doesn't stop here. I think that goes on and on and on in the cosmos, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not a know-it-all. I don't like to I have a hard time locking stuff into carving stuff into stone, because I feel like it deters me from learning more. I hate to sound like a know-it-all, and you know what? I'm probably not going to figure out, you know, half of it this lifetime. You know?
Oh, for sure.
I've got plenty of opinions. And I've got some, what I feel like are some hard messages that were definitely sent to me and locked into my subconscious, because, like I said, a lot of this was locked away into our subconscious, and our subconscious, as you all know, is way more powerful than what we're dealing with right now. Hey, buddy. Hi, Jai. You know, like, hey, how you doing today? I just feel like our language is barbaric and it's very limited in communication. I reflect on things like the multicolored light show that I experienced, and I consider that a download. And, you know, people may say, well, what the hell is this download that I keep hearing people talk about? Well, from what I have studied and from what I gathered, the most efficient way to transfer information into a biological being is light. And I believe that whatever information I needed to have was downloaded into my consciousness by looking at this multicolored light show that they showed me. And the message that I got from them was nothing that I can sit here and tell you oh yeah, they told me that the Niners are not going to make it this year, but maybe next year the 49ers are going to go to, like they don't have that. There's no conversation like that. It's completely different. The conversations that you have up there are way different, and it means different things to me at different times in my life. I believe that what I'm doing right now, talking to you two, sharing my story with your audience, is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is my push. When I first did my first podcast show, I felt my heart beating in my throat. I was so scared. I'm getting better at it. I'm getting more comfortable at it, and I'm able to be more myself. Hell, I can even be funny sometimes. It's okay to be funny. It took me years to realize that I could be myself. I used to think, well, if I'm talking about the UFOs, I've got to be serious and stick with the UFO. Like, I realized I could be myself. I could be a clown. I could be funny. I'm not going to convince the entire world that my story is true, but I'm going to keep pushing. And, when I finally became brave enough to share my recent thoughts, because it's only been about 5 or 6 years that I've really truly come out of the paranormal closet and have been brave enough to call it what it was. It was an abduction. I have missing time. But when I decided, I've been with my wife for a long time, and she's always known that I've been the UFO guy. I've had this UFO experience. But for me to go as far as to say that I have been abducted was way too much for her. Yeah. And it really affected our relationship in the beginning when I first told her about this. And instead of going around pouting that she's not on board 100% like I am with this whole, I'm so passionate about UFOs because I experienced it. I've had this great experience. But instead of walking around pouting that my wife can't be on the same level as me with it, wasn't going to be a healthy relationship. And I could see where it was going to end up. So I ended up praying. And, I'm not much of a religious person. I've always considered myself spiritual. And what I did was I just put the thought out there. I just put it out in the cosmos. And I have a little energy table, and I started getting into crystals, and I started praying basically that I would have an experience with my wife. And, I just thought that it would make things so much smoother, and I could just be passionate about my experience, and maybe she could be passionate about, and we could just skip off into the sunset. And, you know what? We ended up having an experience together July 21st, 2022 in San Leandro, California. Me and my wife, we smoked cigarettes at the time. We went out to have a smoke, and we both witnessed this craft that came, from the right side of the sky, and it started coming over us. And I didn't want to embarrass myself. UFOs is something that I really didn't want to talk about in detail with my wife, because she just wasn't into it. So I've embarrassed myself in front of my wife before with Mylar balloons, with the sun hitting, there's some graduation going on somewhere, and the sun hits this balloon just the right way. And to me, it looks like, I'm being flashed this message, and then within seconds, I realize, oh shit, it's a Mylar balloon. I'm embarrassed, look at me. Or the drones, the drones that come up in the neighborhood, they flash their red lights, their blue lights. They kind of go to the left, right. They don't go too far. They end up going back to their owners. I've embarrassed myself with those a couple of times. So this time when I seen the craft, I just kind of played it off, and I went, so what kind of drone is that, huh? And she's just quiet, and she's just witnessing this craft. And this craft was unlike any flying saucer I've ever seen. There was a ring that I took more notice to than anything. There was this ring that was flipping and rolling. Okay. And inside this ring was a egg-shaped metallic white craft that at the same time was rolling right to left. It was like someone threw a football and had a little bit of a spiral in the football.
Yep.
So while this metallic white egg-shaped craft was rolling from right to left, there was a ring around that was going the opposite way. And
Mhm.
it was one unit, but they were two separate units acting as one. The ring was not touching the football shaped, egg shaped craft. It was on its own. So it was hard for me to lay an eye on it. And here we are with some of the thoughts that ran through my head. I was thinking, is this thing rolling, rotating, flipping? I didn't know. There was a point where I even thought, is this thing shape-shifting? It was just hard for me to get an eye on this object. And it was much further higher up than the UFO that I experienced in 85.
Yep.
In 85, I really felt like that I could have thrown my Etch-a-Sketch and hit it. You know, if I could, I really feel like I could have thrown something and hit it. This was really high, and there was still plenty of light out. It wasn't dark yet. And so as it gets kind of overhead, it wasn't directly overhead. It was a little bit ahead of me and overhead. And the ring kind of slowed up. The spinning kind of slowed up a little bit. And I had a guru friend of mine, Dr. Angel Thacker, and she put it in my mind that next time I have an experience, to do more thinking, to do more communicating, and to ask, what's the message? You know, instead of just sitting there and being an open sponge to whatever, you know, whatever information I can get, I decided to do the initiative and put it out there and straight up be in the moment and ask, what's the message here? So that's what I did. I remember thinking in my mind, what's the message? And as soon as I thought, what's the message? That ring that slowed up a little bit stopped, and it illuminated a pattern of lights, beautiful, brilliant white lights that illuminated inside the ring. And I actually have I drew a picture. That's the pattern of lights that it gave me. It was dot, 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 line. And then again and again, it was repeated below it, just like that. So to me, and it wasn't flying around with that illuminated message. You know, I thought to myself, what's the message? And then it illuminated from within inside the ring. That's what illuminated after I made that thought. So
do
to
you
me,
think it was Morse code?
wow, that's exactly what I thought. And you know, I might call it s'mores code because sometimes that's what I do. I like to butcher everything, but yeah, to me it looked a lot like Morse code, and I wasn't familiar enough with Morse code to know what it spelled. I figured it was spelling something, and I got really excited. And you know, my wife was like, well, that's no drone. So I got a little, you know, I definitely got some validation there. She knows that wasn't a drone. That wasn't a Mylar balloon.
Awesome.
That wasn't a satellite. It definitely wasn't a satellite. So I went upstairs and I was excited to Google Morse code. And like I said, I thought it was going to spell out something. And what it ended up being was it was a numerical message, and it was 444. So to me, I mean, I recognized that number right away as an angelic number, and I couldn't tell you exactly what it meant. You know, 111, 222, you know, 1111. There's all these different angelic numbers, and this one in particular was 444. And if I can read to you real quick what the angelic number 444, it meant everything to me when I read the description of it. 444 is support. It's an angelic presence, safety, protection more than anything is what 444 means. Stability, solid foundations. Angel number 444 is often associated with protection, encouragement, and reassurance. It is a sign that you are on the right path and that your angels and spiritual guides support and surround you. It encourages you to remain focused on building the life you want, knowing that the universe is aligned to help you manifest your goals and aspirations. That's the message that I'm getting from them. To wrap this whole thing up is you know, to sum up all the UFO experiences that I've had in my life, the message I have is we are way more powerful than we have been led to believe.
Mhm.
There's much more power to our thought and what comes out of our mouth.
Yes.
And we do manifest exactly. I know it sounds corny, but if you
No.
put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Yeah.
That's exactly the message that I'm getting is we are so powerful. And there's a program out there, without me getting too dark and into all these conspiracies. Obviously, there's some kind of program out there to keep us dumbed down, to make us feel, by the time we're 4 years old, we're already indoctrinated into the way the system wants us to be.
Mhm.
So to me, it feels like it's been a lifetime of unlearning that is taking place now. Everything that we've learned in school, a lot of these things they're just in an indoctrination. And to me, the message is we are just way more powerful. When you tell somebody they only use a certain percentage of their brain, you kind of turn into that person, and if you were born with the truth and you were told the truth, which I believe is our birth given right, is to know where we are at right now. I have major trust issues. A lot of people have major trust issues on where they're living, where we're at. We've got flat earth, global, the ice wall, have we been to the moon or not? All these things it's just trust issues. We have major trust issues because we have not been told the truth, So that's kind of the message I've been getting. And it's definitely gotten biblical for me because I did have all these weird visions after my UFO experience. I seen the wheel within the wheel that Ezekiel speaks about in the book of Enoch, in the Dead Sea Scrolls. I really got into this Ophanim. It's Ophanim. This Ophanim angel is like the third highest angel in the angel hierarchy. Under seraphim and the cherubim is the throne angel. It's the wheel within the wheel. This is what Ezekiel experienced when you talk about, the past.
All right. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna stop you here really quick, Mike. So, all right. Do you believe then that is this mankind's documented tales over thousands of years through use of the Bible, through use of whatever other medium to document our experiences with aliens, or are aliens somehow connected to or misconstrued as angels? What are your thoughts?
So I don't think this phenomenon started in 1947,
No.
in Area 51.
No,
I definitely believe that this is something that they have been visiting us since the beginning of time. They may have very well even had a hand in our creation.
There is Renaissance art with UFOs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So this goes back at least 1,000 years, in my opinion. So do you think that mankind has mistaken angels for aliens, or vice versa, or what are your thoughts on that?
So I think we line ourselves up every day with people that we admire and we respect. I do it. We do it all the time. If I find somebody I respect, I line myself up with them. Hell, I might even pick up some of their good or bad habits just because I've lined up my energy with this person.
Right.
If somebody came from the heavens, from the sky, and came down and visited me, I'm going to want to line myself up with this individual. Why? Because it looks like this individual has got it figured out. It looks like this person has definitely got it figured out, and I want to align my energy up with this person.
Right.
And I can kind of see how that would turn eventually into what we call religion. You know what I mean? I could, we line ourselves up with just people until they prove us wrong. And sometimes we can line ourselves up with people and actually feel like we're being sucked into some kind of cult because we've lined ourselves up so hard with this individual. I believe that this happens when these beings come down from the heavens and they visit us. I think we're lining ourselves up so hard with this individual that it almost becomes a religion. And then eventually at some point in time, it became hijacked because they realized how powerful this religion is. So it gets hijacked, and anything good kind of gets taken advantage of eventually.
Of course
So,
it does. Now, like for me, like as a ghost guy, there's like a lot of like. So I read a lot, and I've read a lot of Carl Jung. As somebody who works in psychology, I read a lot of Carl Jung. He has this theory called synchronicity, where he believes that the human subconscious has a connection to the universe, and you can not only like speak to the dead, but I mean, like, do you think there's some they communicate telepathically? These alien.
Yeah, I believe that's the language of the cosmos, is telepathically. You hear it over and over again. People with near-death experiences, not just UFO experiencers.
Right.
They were spoken to without the lips moving. It was more of a telepathic. I believe that is more of a universal language. I think like Hebrew. You go back. I trust stuff that's older than I would trust something that's more modern. There's a lot of misconceptions, to think that anybody in the past was no smarter than what we are today. We're at the top of our game. We're the definition of modern, but in reality, I think they may have been a little bit closer to this phenomenon even back then. With the languages, the Hebrew language that we spoke, or that the people spoke. Each word only has like 2 or 3 different meanings. In English, each word that we have has multiple meanings. So I think it's easier to trick us, into throwing spells at each other every day. Good morning. Grand. People say grand rising instead of good morning because there's different meanings. So a lot of people think that we're actually going around throwing spells at each other all day. So from what I found in these deep, dark rabbit holes is there's a dark ass world out there. And
yes, I do believe that people can use their own intentions and affect others. Honestly, it's there's something to be said about the voodoo doll. There's something to be said about curses. There's something to be said about all this stuff.
Yeah.
Is it just like a coinky dink, or is it actually a thing? I kind of think it's a thing.
I believe that there's a connection. There's a communication that we have. There's communication that I have, and it doesn't necessarily need to have. I don't need to have an item that's placed in my skin for them to know what I'm thinking or to know where I'm at.
Right.
To me, that sounds like something we would do. That sounds like something that we do to animals, for good intentions, But I believe if they want to keep tabs on me, they just need to tap into something else, whether it be what's the word that I'm thinking of? They can tap into something else about me instead of barbarically needing to have something stuck in my skin. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I can just reach out and think about them. If my intentions are good in my heart, they hear me out. For some reason, when I put that out there in the cosmos, pray, whatever you want to call it, they hear me and they answer my thoughts and my prayers. And it doesn't mean I don't need a ship right in front of me to do it. Yeah.
All right. Another question. So the taking off really quick, that sudden explosion of speed. This is not the first time I've heard of this before. I got a good friend of mine. He does grant writing for a federal program, and the guy who runs the federal research program, it's through is it AAIA? I think it's through. And the guy who runs this program was a former Navy pilot, and that's one of the things that he would mention is like that they'd be like floating still, and then that just instantly gone. Do you think that's nuclear technology? What kind of technology do you think that could possibly be?
I think it's something that can just be interwoven in the fabric of the spectrum that we don't even understand. We're so locked into what we've come to know,
our own constructs and everything. Yeah.
There's no way we're going to be able to figure out. That's why I said we're not going to be able to figure half of this stuff out. We can have fun playing around with throwing around ideas. I love talking about this. This is my passion. I love your questions. These are the questions I had, and I keep re-asking myself as life goes on. I love the theories that are out there that, it gets sucked into this vacuum, that's why it looks like it appears to just take off so fast, because it was actually sucked into another dimension real quick. There's no friction out there, right? These craft, eliminate whatever's in front of it before it even goes through it. That's why they can enter the water at such, seamless speed without splashing and without the bodies crashing up against the wall. Like that kind of stuff does not affect, this is kids play to them. They've already figured out, stuff that.
And they've done that. Now these craft that are seen going like seamlessly into the water. Do you believe that it might be not a hiding spot, but it's where maybe they have colonies down there? Do you,
absolutely.
Any thought to that? Yeah.
It's definitely opened my mind to, think, not just to think that these things are out in
out there, that they're here, right?
That they could very well be here. And this planet can very well, I know it sounds crazy, but this planet can be a lot larger than we have been told. They could definitely be in the oceans. I mean, there's parts of the ocean that, we'll never be able to explore. There's some parts that are so deep, and you look at the Bermuda Triangle, and the waters off of Puerto Rico, and you're like, man, they can definitely, if they can manipulate space and time and be able to just go into the waters like that without experiencing the crushing power of the pressure and things that we think are necessary. Like we put a big old 200-pound suit on us made out of iron and copper or whatever, not copper, that's pretty soft metal, but we think that this is the way we need to do it, but that's just where we're at right now, at the time, at the moment. This is the technology.
How do we know that the water doesn't vortex?
Exactly.
Vortex and open the opening up for it to just go down.
Right. Yeah, we don't know. So I'm definitely open to all these theories. It's really fun, and it, like I said, though, it could also be unhealthy because you can also just fall for any and everything at the same time.
Yeah, and scapegoat everything as a UFO, and then just
pretty soon everything's watered down, and your story becomes watered down because it's like, what's next, Mike? You jumped on Nessie and what's next? If I just keep going. And with my thoughts and theories and my dreams and visions, it kind of waters down the actual physical things. Waking up to the waitress, that was not a dream. That was not a vision. That was something that happened. The UFO, that was something that happened. It was not a thought. It wasn't a dream. It happened. The vortex in the clouds. I wasn't looking for these things. I was just admiring the sky.
You just happen to be right place at the right time. You think
exactly, and
you don't think they picked you? You don't think they picked you out ahead of time?
Do I think they took me out ahead of time?
Yeah. Do you think they picked you? Like,
okay. So
we're gonna get this guy right here. Right?
I've been through the emotional roller coaster of thinking there was something special about me. To how dare they take me without my consent? It's an emotional roller coaster. Yeah, sure. I had, thoughts of, wow, there must be something special about me, and then no, there's probably nothing special about me. There's been hundreds of thousands of people that have been taken that don't realize it. And what they do is they chalk it up to other things like, oh, that just must have been this or must have been that. You can stare into a puddle and get hypnotized and lose 2 hours. I mean, that you don't necessarily have to be standing underneath the UFO to that's just something that luckily I retained. That's just something that they allowed me to remember. There's a lot of things they didn't allow me to remember.
Yep.
But there's some things that I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that I had this experience. Most people go their whole life without experiencing a ghost, near-death experience, or a UFO. But those of us that have, it has opened up a whole line of passion.
Whole passion for sure.
What we want to do. We're all sitting here. Us three are sitting here. Why? And your audience is tuned in. Why? Because they're interested. It answers the most, angelic questions that we have, the most beautiful questions that we have. There's an answer to some of them through us experiencers. It's just, I love it. I'm so grateful because there's more to life than morning, Ralph, morning, Sam.
Oh, hell yeah. Hey, one last question I have for you, Mike, before we start to wrap up tonight. So the experience with the waitress and in the diner, do you think that you were on the ship for that, or do you think that you were?
No.
What are your thoughts?
I believe I was right where I thought I was.
Oh yeah.
You know what though? I never thought about that. They might have very well, had me, the bed part, just to kind of make me feel comfortable. Maybe I was already on board, but I really felt like I was in my bedroom and, this waitress was coming at me and I believe that she was probably an alien.
Yeah.
It sounds funny, but, it sounds funny coming out my mouth like that.
No, it absolutely makes sense. It makes sense that you and so many other people wouldn't have like exact memories of like what actually happened, because like so many people I have known over the years that have had like just human traumas and they have no memory of it for years and years and years. And then one day it all comes back like it was real, like it all happened yesterday. Yeah. And like every detail and every awful florid memory of the experience comes through like you would have never remembered it like a week ago, but now you suddenly have these like real memories that this stuff really happened so long ago. So like the human brain is just gonna like put it away somewhere. Maybe it'll unpack itself. Maybe it won't. But yeah, it's all very fascinating. Jai, you got anything else you want to ask our beloved guests today before we begin to wrap up?
I just wanted to ask: Are there any books or anything that you considered writing a book about?
I definitely considered it. I have not began yet, but yeah, I definitely have that in the works. I definitely want at least to write one book. So I just been keeping myself busy. I don't say no to interviews. I don't say no to a chance to be on a documentary. My goal is to get my experience out there the best way possible and to reenact it. I go to Pixar and try to recreate the visuals that I've seen. But maybe one day we'll be able to sit down and enjoy a documentary with these visuals, with the technology that we have. I want to share to the T what I experienced. That's my goal.
That's awesome.
Sounds good.
That's great. And that's why I have a show like this. I'm sorry, Jai. Go ahead. That's why I have a show like this. I'm sorry, go ahead, Jai. You, Jai, you.
Okay. I was just going to ask, how can people get a hold of you if they want to interview or anything?
I'm just, I don't have a website or anything. I'm just a simple Facebook guy. If you punch in James Michael Walker on Facebook, I'll pop up. My nickname is Skywalker. You'll find me on Facebook. And once you find me on Facebook, then you'll be able to find my Ophinum Energy page that I create Orgon Energy, Orgonite. I create pyramids with crystals and metals. That's kind of like an angelic thing that I've been kind of guided to do, is to bring back this ancient technology of crystals and metals and organic material with the resin and the epoxy. So I have an Ophinum Energy page. I have a Paranormal Fridays page where I just dump everything paranormal, all my interviews, anything ghosts, aliens, you name it, goes on my Paranormal Fridays page. So yeah, you can find me on Paranormal Fridays, Ophinum Energy. I have a private UFO group with about 500 experiencers that I created about 8 or 9 years ago. It's called Paranormal UFO California. It's a private group. So yeah, you can find all those just by finding me on Facebook.
Simple. That's awesome. It's great. And like I was saying before, I constantly tried to interrupt Jai. I have a show like this because I love to give other people that platform. I love to hear other people's stories. I just whether it's ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot people, come on in. I've had a few Bigfoot people, I'm yet to be convinced, but aliens and UFOs is definitely something that I don't need any convincing. I think we all know the truth. I think we all know that we're not the only ones in the universe. It'd be really super egotistical to think. So I love sitting here. I love hearing everybody's stories. I love hearing how other people investigate like I do, even whether they're a state over or they're halfway around the world in Australia. It's great to hear other people's experiences, and that's what this life is all about. I feel like it's just a series of experiences. Speaking of experiences, tune in if you're not doing anything Thursday night. Tune in to my other podcast, Three Dudes Brews, as we bring on Block Island Rick will join us and discuss all the festive summer beers that they're experiencing out there on Block Island. And we'll talk about some of the beers that we're experiencing here on the mainland. Tune in next Tuesday to the Goat and the Ghost as we welcome the Ghost and the Goat as we welcome Rob Freeman and Trish. Rob Freeman he's a paranormal guy, but he works with folks that are blind that are having vision. So it's visionswithouteyes.com is his website. And I look forward to diving into his research about folks that are blind and still experiencing the paranormal. So it's all fantastic stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Be sure to tune in for it all. Tune in for we have 5 brand new episodes. 5 and released at once. Brand new episodes of Three Dudes Brews from various different breweries and wineries here around Rhode Island. Tune in for all that good stuff. And this and everything else. So for our beloved guest, Michael Walker, Skywalker, for my lovely co-host, Jai, this has been Buddy Thayer, the Ghost and the Goat. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, everybody. Have a good week. And, oh, God, the Celtics are at 107-92. The Celtics are down the friggin' 76ers. Let's go, Celtics. Let's go. Have a good week, folks. Tune in next week.